I believe there's something in us that is spiritual, for a better word, that is bigger than our psychology, and it's bigger than our cell structure.
Spiritual health is the ability for me, I think, to access soul or spirit on whatever level you can.
Spirituality has to do with our sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves, and it has to do with a sense of meaning and purpose in our lives. So I would find it hard to figure out how you were going to do any kind of social work that didn't address those two dimensions.
I think conditions on where the person is born, how the person grow up, and certain things that might have happened in a person's life shapes a person's belief in spirituality and religion.
For me, spiritual health is about staying centered, not letting things really ruffle my feathers, and knowing that for me there is a spiritual entity or energy that's greater than myself, directing my own recovery and my work in working with people that are recovering from addiction.
Spirituality is about interconnectedness. You know, first connection with oneself, then interconnectedness with everything else, other people, things in the world. And oftentimes when people have moments that they define with as spiritual, it's when they have a powerful connection with something. You know, whether it's seeing a waterfall or a mountain or an ocean, you know, there's kind of, and people lose themselves in that moment. And so spiritual health may be related to how well one can allow oneself to participate in that kind of experience.
There's, to me, a bottom line. It's like, why are we alive? You know, what's our belief about ourselves in the universe or in our world? You know, are we alone? All the questions, you know, like why is there pain? I don't have the answers to all these, by the way, but I'm not afraid of them, and they're just questions, and they frequently bring us to a place where I think we, as I said before, that we have some hunger for something. Whether you want to call that spiritual or not, it's a hunger, deep hunger. And one of the ways to address it is through a spiritual practice.
I believe in meditation. I believe that even walking on the beach is a form of meditation. I believe in just getting quiet and sort of listening to what goes on inside. So my practice has sort of been eclectic in that regard. Whatever really gets to people as far as something that will broaden their consciousness, help them open their hearts, and be more in the world and more in relation to other people.
I'm a Muslim, and part of being a Muslim is believing in you not having total control over what happens to you.
Just doing the next right thing, or you know, is charitable in their life, remembers principles like gratitude and forgiveness, that those people are living a spiritual way of life, and I am helping to guide them toward those objectives, even if it's not under those particular words.
I have no doubts now, after we're going on our 4th year, that hope can come with prayer. It can come with somebody remembering a bigger picture.
If it's a vehicle to get more centered and to be more in the world and to be able to be more in relationship with other people in a loving, giving, caring, non-shaming, non-blaming way, then I say go for it. But spend time exploring it. Don't necessarily just be controlled by one rigid thing or be held to one piece of dogma. You know, try exploring other stuff to see what's out there, and then make your choice.
My own personal health is dependent on my spiritual health. So if I don't have a spiritual practice, or my spiritual life has become depleted or is not being, you know, enhanced, then I can't do the work that I do.
I feel like something is with me. I don't talk a lot about what that is, because as soon as you use language, you close people's minds or you close doors, you know. So I try to just live that, and it seems to work sometimes where people feel that. But almost always it's based on trying to live with that person for a short period of time in their reality, and bring the sense of something bigger.
I believe that we heal people physically and mentally, but we don't really heal people spiritually. And I also believe that if we can add the spiritual aspect of our healing, then people will be healed holistically. You don't have to have that belief, but find out what the belief of the person is, and then encourage the person to add it to the person's healing process.
If I'm going to just not even ask the question of a client in front of me about what are their spiritual beliefs, I may lose a whole piece of who that client truly is. I might be losing out on something, that client might be losing out on something, and we might be losing out on some rich exchange of information that might be an actual key to that client's potential movement forward in an area where they might be stuck. So if we're not asking the questions about, so what's your spiritual belief system? Do you have any, do you have any belief in any sort of supernatural? Do you have any belief in some sort of deity? Or where are you with that? Or are you more native? Do you lean more towards Native American stuff? Are you pagan? Are you, but where are you with your spirituality? If we don't ask that question, I think there's a whole chunk that we could be missing there.
I don't believe it's a hierarchy where you just do that, that, and that, and then all of a sudden the person becomes a spiritual person. A person became a spiritual person when they were born, and they're spiritual wherever they are. So to just deny that and act like as if somehow they'll become spiritual because they have an apartment, I think that's a little crazy, actually. They're spiritual, that's it. You don't want to see it, you don't want to own your own spiritual, hunger. That's okay. I mean, the world doesn't end, but I think I think the reality is there's a spiritual hunger in us, and if you don't see it as a social worker, whatever. But it would be good if you saw. Do you believe that people are spiritual beings? What do you believe about that? Because it's going to come out in your work, and if you don't believe that, you're going to have a door closed for people's hunger around that, which is really sad because they have that hunger, and you'll miss it if you haven't looked at your own belief system around that, or maybe your own history around that. It doesn't mean you have to do anything really much about it, but have, just like any other issue about abuse or anything else, you have the door open to that. It's kind of crazy. You have the door open to abuse issues, but you have the door open to people's spiritual hunger.